Hello, this is Matt Singer. I'm the arts and culture editor at Willamette Week, and my guest today is Vitaly Paley. Vitaly Paley is uh, one of Portland's most prominent chefs and restaurateurs. But this past week, he had to close two of his restaurants, his pizzeria, The Crown, and Imperial, which was Willamette Week's Restaurant of the Year in 2015. Vitaly, maybe we can start. Can you kind of tell me about sort of reaching the decision to close both of those restaurants? I mean, was there like a particular moment where you're like, this is the closure has to happen?
Well, thanks, Matthew, first of all, for having me on the show. I am honored uh, uh, to be able to speak about, there are many things I wanted to say. I want to say about what's going on in our world, but I think we're so affected by what's around us that all of us have a little delay effect of trying to respond to everything. And restaurant business in general has been hit pretty hard through this COVID. And then it just kind of got exasperated by just all the other things that have been happening to us. As a result, the downtown has had they had a pretty heavy brunt of what's happening. And the streets are empty, the offices are empty, there's no shows, there's no theater, there's no ball games. The shopping is very limited. The windows are boarded up everywhere. We've had homelessness for quite some time now, but it just got even worse through this COVID pandemic. We really were gung-ho in trying to reopen Imperial and the Crown, and we did so. We did it correctly. We did it with all the intentions of sustaining ourselves and keeping going. We've been incredibly conservative throughout this whole period to be able to afford to continue to roll. We applied for the PPP funds, which were really incredibly helpful for us to get us back up and running. Our team put together workflow charts and to nth degree really applied ourselves to make sure the safety of our staff, happiness of our staff, as well as the customers would be taken into greatest consideration. And then we opened and we saw 15%, 20% of the volume that we used to see before we had to close. And as we're kind of projecting into the future and all the barometers are pointing the fact that downtown isn't coming back anytime soon, it became apparent that a restaurant of our size would need quite a bit of juice to continue to roll. So it just became quickly untenable as a business model that we're not going to be able to sustain ourselves until things come back to normal.
They sort of alluded to, downtown and how it's being hit by, a number of factors as opposed to maybe some other parts of town. So could you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, how much of this, if Imperial was on the east side or something like that, do you think it would have had a greater chance for survival?
I do, definitely so. Paleys Place, I'll give you an example. Paleys Place has been in existence for 25 years. That's in northwest side Portland of Portland. We're on Northwest 21st and Northrop. Just about the same time as we were opening up Imperial, we were able to reopen Paleys Place with the same precautions and cautions and guidelines from the Oregon Health Authority. And we're seeing our business come back fairly strong, both outdoor and indoor dining. As well as we were able to pivot, and it's one of those keywords these days. A lot of us are pivoting our business models. We're able to start helping our farmers and doing this farmer box program, CSA style, if you will, and then some add-ons for those people who are not comfortable eating at the restaurants, and there's few of them, and it's very understandable. We are doing a lot of takeout. So combination of all of that, and we're only open 4 days out of the week. mind you. We've been able to get up to about 70% of our business we used to do prior to closing. So, if I didn't have Paleys Place to compare, I would probably not have the data that I needed to kind of tip me over that edge to make the call to close down the downtown. But the problem we're dealing with is uniquely downtown. I have at this point data to prove it. So,
what should the city be doing to help maybe restaurants in general, or maybe more specifically restaurants downtown? What should they be doing to help that they're not doing right now? What would you like to see happen?
I don't know, Matthew. I've for the longest time I've tried to stay out of politics. I always said my politics are potatoes and tomatoes, and how I feel personally is probably different from what we should talk about as a business owner. But I think in general, city of Portland has been struck with a very difficult situation on many levels. They were probably not ready for a lot of those situations, and so the response has been very slow. And I think the longer we wait for something to happen, the further away we are from the goal of getting our city to an energetic place that it needs to be. My wife and I, Kimberly, came here 25 years ago and fell in love with the city of Portland for its small town feel, yet big city ambitions. I always describe, and I came from the East Coast, came from New York City, so I always describe Portland as a big park with a small city in the center, whereas New York was always like the opposite. It was like the big city with a small park in the center. And so that was very appealing to us. It was easy to do business. It was inexpensive enough to run a business. Plenty of property, plenty of fantastic, beautiful air. The ingredients were just ripe and ready. The valley is right there next to us. People are moving here. Everybody's happy. You walk on the street, people say hello to one another. I mean, all those things that you always wanted to see in a city of our nature. And of course, me as a cook, it rains 9 months out of the year, but when it stops raining, the beautiful stuff that comes out of the ground is just amazing. We're here with the wine region right there next to us. So all of those things were incredibly attractive. And then COVID hit, everything changed. I hope we get to see all those good things again that made us all come and fall in love with Portland.
Where do you think the restaurant scene in Portland is going to be a year from now?
I don't know. Hard to say. I think those of us who, if I was a few years younger, I'd probably say, I'm gonna fight right through this, and I'm gonna spend every single dollar that I still have to continue running this. But we've had a pretty good run in Portland, and now to me personally at Paleys Place makes a lot more sense. I'm finding a new fountain of creativity at Paleys Place, and I'm really enjoying the process of working with our long team, that team that's been with us. My chef, Luis, has been with us for 20 years. Sous chefs in the front of the house people have been with us for 9, 10, 12. I don't really know what to tell you as far as the rest of the dining community in Portland. We always thought we were better together than apart. And so we're hopefully going to dust ourselves off and pick ourselves up and maybe figure out something, how to get back at it together. But I just don't know. I don't want this to be a sob story, but the future is still uncertain at this point. If we get the COVID under control, then I think we can probably get there. And then, of course, then we've got elections to deal with as well. So that's going to be yet another interesting situation for us to continue worrying about.